Going to go ahead and bring up not only another one of the organizers of 1 Million Cups, but she's involved in so many different things. Sonia Dewing is a author, she is a business owner, she is a social media consultant, but today, this morning, she's talking about one of her latest ventures into what we call Plot Duckies. So give everybody a round of applause for Sonia Dewing.
Thank you, Charles. All right, and before I get started, I actually want to point out, so if you've ever seen our Facebook Live that Jack Media does, they do it from multiple camera angles, and it's pretty awesome to watch. So I'm very impressed by what you guys do. All right, so thank you all for coming, and I want to talk today about Plot Duckies. And some of you may know the how this started, because I did present about a year ago, but things have changed. But how it started. So I went to a writers' conference. And if you've ever been to a writers' conference, it's very much like other conferences where it's very boring. You sit around a lot. It's a lot of lecture. And I got to thinking, especially being around entrepreneurs, there was a problem here. And it's really that creative writers should be meeting more creatively. There's a ton of research out there, a ton, about how we can access our creativity, and yet we're not using that in conferences. So for creative writers. So I decided to come back, and I've created events for creative writers that centers around creativity. So we do things differently. Like we move from one location to another throughout the day, and we explore and we access our creativity through those events. But I wanted something more as well. I feel like I want Plot Duckies to be able to help more creative writers, and events just weren't doing enough, right? It's slowly growing the business, but not fast enough. So I needed ideas, and I needed to grow my community. So the next bit here is actually kind of part journey and part some really great resources that I've used to do both growing that community and finding new ideas. So number one is Help a Reporter Out, which is known as HARO. If you find, you can always Google that. But basically, this is bloggers, reporters, podcasters who are looking for subject matter experts. And I signed up for this, and I keep an eye out because I want to become a thought leader on creativity and on writing. And so, and actually the post that was the most important one so far, I missed, but one of our community members, Tamara, who's actually in Ireland, but she's still a community member here, forwarded me this post that someone was looking for a writer to interview for their podcast. So I responded, and this gentleman interviewed me for the Daily Author, and ever since I've been interviewed on that, every single day I get a new sign-up on either on my newsletter or on Plot Duckies newsletter. So that was a really great connection that I made through that resource. The next resource, so right, looking for new ideas to expand my business, was ABQID, and I needed idea hacks for my business. And it just so happens that ABQID does idea hacks. So I brought TJ Cook ran the event. I brought two of my target market, who I don't think either one of them are here today, but I thank them a lot. And it was their ideas that actually came up to the top and were really great ideas. So the one I'm working on right now is a subscription box for creative writers. So basically, they'll get a box each month with fun things that all writers love, like pens and notebooks, but then also helpful things like how to outline your next novel, and then a chapter of a book that I have that's, it's all about the research on creativity and how we as writers can use that research for ourselves to be better writers. So they'll get a variety of things each month, and so that's the cool idea that I'm working on. Now, to get to the point where I am at now, because I have a completely working website for the box, I used some more resources. There's more than even listed here, but I don't have enough time to go through all of them. Number one, I took a class, Intro to WordPress, while I was working on the website through Girl Develop It. They have a lot of coding classes, so look them up if you're interested in sort of that intro to coding. But this was Intro to WordPress, and the instructor was Alando Indicochia, who also runs 11 Online, and he actually took me aside and gave me some information outside of Intro, because I'm actually beyond sort of the Intro to WordPress at this point, and gave me some input that was super helpful for me to get my website done. And then I also used lynda.com because WooCommerce has a lot of settings in there. So if you're ever creating a WordPress with WooCommerce site, I would definitely suggest going on lynda.com, which is free if you have an Albuquerque library card. Okay, and then what's next? So I have 2 people who've signed up for my beta test version of the box, and I'm looking for 3 more. I'm hoping to have at least 5 people that I can ship this box out to in January and get their feedback. And I'm thinking if this box works, if people like it, if it takes off, maybe creating other boxes for nonfiction writers, maybe short story writers, because the first box is specifically for novel writers. And then my other idea is I'm thinking of adding other outside products outside of the box. For example, my friend Holly, who's here today. Holly, raise your hand. She runs her company, which she handmade this pen out of acrylic, and I love this pen. But it's not something I can add to the box because it's a little bit too expensive. But I know other writers would love to have their own handmade pen. So I'd like to add things like this to the store so people can purchase things. So I definitely am looking for other products, especially here in Albuquerque, that I could add to the store. And then, what's my challenge? So I want to look for the most cost-effective ways to continue to grow my community, right? Haro is a really great way. It's been working really well. Another idea I have 3 conferences that I'm going to this year, and I want to kind of combine that with presenting at a 1 Million Cups in these cities, as well as doing a book signing, since my book just came out, Toy the Gods, that's adventure. So kind of combining these trips with getting to know the communities there. But if anyone has any ideas of how to grow my audience of writers, I would love to hear that. And now I am ready for any questions you have about Plot Duckies.
And I'll remind you, when you raise your hand, go ahead and make your introduction. I am, followed by the organization or business you represent.
Yes.
Are you doing this for you or for other writers?
I'm sorry, who are you?
Jim Wagner. Are you doing this for you, for other writers, or both?
Am I doing this for me, for other writers, or both? So it's definitely both, because my goal is to help other writers be able to complete a novel. Right? A lot of people have this book in their head and they don't know how to get it down on paper. So the goal of the box is to help writers. But then I also want to build this business so that not only do I not have to work as a consultant anymore, but I can hire people to help me with this business because I want to grow it. So it's both. Yes.
I'm Margaret Dawson with Balancing Life and Work. I'm assuming you have, but have you been to the Southwest Writers Workshop? And is that a place that you would recommend writers go? What's your take on it?
So, yes, I have been to Southwest Writers. And actually, the event itself was very helpful because that's where I met Teresa, who runs New Mexico Entertainment Magazine. But I also was not comfortable there. It was very strange. And I'm sure maybe it was just that one-off event, but everyone there was suddenly, I was like the missing grandchild who because I was the only new person there, and suddenly I had all this attention on me, and it was really weird. So I haven't been back, but I do think I should probably re-explore Southwest Writers again. Give them another chance. I'll give them another chance. Yes?
New York Life. With the subscription model, I love it. Have you thought of seeking out maybe how to partner with something like National Novel Writing Month?
So he's asking me, have I looked at partnering with something like National Novel Writing Month, which for those of you who may not know, that happens every November. And actually, I'm a liaison for National Novel Month. And it's basically, we encourage people to write 50,000 words in a month, which is, it's a great way to just get the beginnings of a novel down on paper. And so I've talked to them a little bit. They're not really interested in partnering with someone who has a product for profit, since they're a nonprofit. But I have looked at partnering with other organizations, like for the first box, Scrivener is offering a coupon for anyone who buys the first box, and Scrivener is a program that I use to write my novel. It's like a Word program, but better kind of thing. So I am looking at partnering with other organizations that either have a product that writers would like, but I do have connections to NaNoWriMo, so I get to talk to those people, and that's a good way to grow my community. Yes?
So my company's done a fair amount of marketing for authors, and one of the things that has made us successful in terms of continuing to prospect our existing clients is getting invited to our authors' mastermind groups, or being able to talk about what the services we provide in those groups. And seems like there's a lot of mastermind groups in the self-published author space. So just, I don't know, tip, or I don't know if you've tried that, or...
So the suggestion is finding a mastermind group of people who want to be writers. Is that the gist of it? So... Right. Well, so one of the things I did several years ago is I did start a writer's review group, but I think I could expand on that because right now our group is focused on reviewing novel or short story, but I am thinking of expanding it and creating, well, not just an in-person, but an online. I've got like more than 100 people on Facebook in my group, but only like 40 people come, or only like 15 people come to the events. So maybe creating something online that I could help writers as well. So I think that's a good idea to kind of expand that idea. Yes?
Atelier Studio for Applied Arts. Thank you for the shout out. When you talk about getting people to, get that novel out of their head and onto paper, are you focused mostly on first-time writers, or are you looking down the road to people who are having trouble getting the second novel out or changing from short story to novel? That sort of transition seems to be kind of tricky for a lot of writers.
Okay, excellent question. So she was asking who my focus is. Is it someone who's never written a novel, maybe someone who's working on the second novel, or someone who's transitioning from writing short stories to novels? And to be honest, I am focused on anyone who wants to write that first novel and doesn't know how to get started, especially people who haven't been published yet, is kind of my focus. No one's going to ask me in the name Plot Duckies where it came from? I'm like, that was the one question I was expecting. All right, I will tell you. So because I started with National Novel Writing Month, I started handing out these little duckies each month, each year, to everyone who's participating as kind of an inspiration. And it's also, it kind of goes hand in hand with coding. I had this conversation with someone the other day. But when you talk out your issue in your story, your problem you're having, sometimes you come up with that idea. So if you have a little ducky to talk to, maybe not at the coffee shop, maybe at home, you're talking to the ducky, it helps you kind of figure out the issue. So, and I call those Plot Duckies, and that's where the name came from. And there was a hand way out in the back.
And what you're doing to promote it?
Okay, my own so he was asking me about my own novel that was just published, and what am I doing to promote that? And actually, I am, let's see, I shared it a lot on social media, and I know a lot of people who, I should start at the beginning. I had to sell the book, at least 100 books in the beginning in pre-sales through Publishizer, because it was a completely different way to sell a book and not have to have an agent. So I had already sold 100 books before it was even published. And then, so now what I'm doing is I'm setting up a launch party. So I'm working with Carlos Contreras to put on a launch party here in Albuquerque and invite a bunch of people, have a lot of fun, hopefully sell some books. And what else am I doing? I am working on, my main focus right now is actually getting reviews of the book. So people who have already bought the book, I'm getting them to review it on Amazon or Goodreads, because as soon as I have at least 10 reviews, then the publisher can take that and put it into their marketing funnel, which will help me sell more books. So that is my main focus right now, is getting reviews from the people who've already bought the book. And I know people are kind of in the process of reading it, so which is awesome, and I'm all excited. And then I plan on going to different cities this year and doing some book signings to sell books that way. Yes, Alonzo.
Reviewers for your book, there are services out there that provide like advanced reviewer services, basically. So I don't know if you've looked at that, or I don't know what the pricing is like on those. I know some of our authors use that.
Yeah. And I'll ask you about, the publisher sent me some places to sign up, which I did, so maybe you know other reviewers, places that I don't, so I'll connect with you on that. And I think this is good for the box as well, right? Because if I'm trying to sell a box that'll help you write a novel, I have a novel published, so I think that's a good thing for trying to sell the box. Yes?
Barbara Dawson again with Balancing Life and Work. The name of your book and what's it about?
Oh, the name of my book is Toy of the Gods. Leslie Kicklighter and a group of tourists are stranded in the Amazon jungle by a recently awakened Inca god, and they have to make their way back to civilization on foot, past bandits hired to kill them, villagers out for their land, banana plantation owner with a secret to keep, and drunken monkeys. Yeah. Yeah, totally. A female Indiana Jones. It was fun to write. It was fun to travel to Peru and kind of see the Amazon, and yeah. Charles.
Organizer here at 1 Million Cups, also a virtual operations manager. So it seems to me that you're really starting to fill in all these different places of your business to build this community, to really one thing helps the other. Can you talk us through a little bit more of this idea of filling out your business in terms of not only servicing just one part of it, but really filling in all these different areas that kind of feed into the rest of your business?
Okay, so filling in other areas of the business. So I'm not sure I understand the question.
So, it's important as a business owner not to only just go after, you've already fulfilled one niche, right? How do you start deciding what the next area is to go into and why that complements everything else that you're doing?
Okay, excellent question. So what is the decision-making process on what comes next for the business? And actually, so when ABQID did the idea hack, we ended up voting on all the ideas, and 2 ideas came out on top. And to be honest, the box idea was the quickest thing that I could put together. The other idea is an online community where writers can learn from videos for every stage of the writing process, and making it more of a community where they can connect with each other, which there's more competition in that area as well. Like Redzy is kind of working on that right now. And plus, I don't have the money to pay anyone to create this community, and I'm not good enough at coding and websites to do that sort of thing. So to me, it was the box idea was the quickest thing I could get to market, right? Fail fast. It was the thing that I can test the fastest. I also did a survey before I put the box out to all the writers and all the communities that I knew of, and got a lot of great feedback on what they would want to see, and that they would buy a box, and that this is what they want to see. And what are their pain points that I could try to solve. So the survey, so first of all, I picked the box because it was the fastest thing I could test. And then the survey kind of solidified that this was probably a good idea to work on. So then if this works out and if I make money on this, then hopefully I can pay someone to work on that other idea of creating a community website type thing. Yes?
I was wondering, what's your target market for the book?
Target market for the book are, number one, anyone who's ever read Repairman Jack novels, Clive Cussler, the Congo novel by, oh man, I can't remember the name of that one. And anyone who likes like Laura Croft movie, right? Someone who likes a strong female character in an adventure, this is the book for you. Yes?
That's actually a really interesting way to go about your target market. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you came up with that specific kind of demographic, and maybe talk about how the rest of us could also start thinking about a different way of approaching our marketing and our target market?
Okay. So Charles was asking me about how did I come up with my target market, because it's something a lot of us need to think about. And I think that's something too, because a lot of people are afraid to target their things to a specific market because they're afraid they're going to lose out on other markets. But the thing is, if you don't target a specific audience, you're going to lose your audience completely. And for novels specifically, and if you're trying to get an agent to take your book or a publisher, they're going to ask you, who is your target market? Who's going to like this book? So for me, I had to research other books that were similar, right, had a similar vein, because it's got adventure and suspense, and it's got a little mysticism, right, because there's an Inca god. So I had to find books that were similar to that book and be able to compare it. Okay, well, you know, someone who read Congo or someone who read Repairman Jack, The Tomb, would really like this book. So for me, it shows the agent, shows the publisher that I did my research, but it also helps me target my market. And then, you know, there are going to be people out there who have never read the Congo or Repairman Jack who read this book and are going to love it and going to hear about it from their friends. So it's not like targeting is going to lose any audience for me. Okay. All right, we're going to talk this morning.
Talk to me a little bit. Yeah, actually, if you put on I know. If you put in your password, I think it'll come back up.
There you go.
So,
Take that.
While you're putting in your password. So a question for you is, you know, when you're building out this box, right? You've never really done a physical product before. Can you walk us through, you know, the idea of the inception and like all the different little problems that you had to start solving as you are building out a physical product as well as a subscription service?
All right, excellent idea. So number one, I'm going to go back here a little bit to the picture. I didn't even know how I was going to start. So I go back. Yay, there we are. So I actually was worried about the whole process, like how am I going to know when someone has ordered the first box, and et cetera, et cetera. And I hadn't even landed on WooCommerce yet. And so I sat down with a local resource, Charles White, who's all about onboarding and customers and that sort of thing. So, and you turned me on to WooCommerce, and it's perfect because WooCommerce has a plugin for subscriptions. And so that was problem number one. And problem number two was creating all of this before I even had it all together. So for example, well, I always have duckies, so the ducky was easy. And then the pen, I love this pen, but then I couldn't find it anywhere online, so I actually had to go with a soft pen. So, right, doing all the research on each of these things, how much is it going to cost to print, right, this outline, how much is it going to cost to purchase all the, right, so I had to go through and create an Excel spreadsheet of costs how much it's going to cost to ship to me. And then, like, this isn't a real book yet. This is just a cover on a book, because I've got like the first 3 chapters, and so they're going to get a chapter a month. So I'll be working on this while I'm working on the box. So that, and it's also missing, there's a timer in the box too, which I just got. So, right, getting everything all together to take a photo. I think what helped too is originally TJ had sent me to Cratejoy. They have a website where they sell subscriptions. And I went through their whole process, and it was a lot of details to think through. Like, for example, what day do people need to order it by, and what day are you going to ship it by? And thinking through those kinds of things. But I didn't use Cratejoy because they were way too expensive. I would have had to raise my prices too much, which is why I built my own website. But yeah, figuring out what I can purchase, what I can get quickly, right? And I think that's it. Yeah. Yes. Okay, thank you. So the question is, why did I decide to publish the book the way I did? And which is an excellent question, because for many years, well, not for many years, 4 years ago when I first wrote the book, I started looking for an agent. And I wanted an agent. I wanted to go the normal route through the big 5 and get published through a big publisher. But it was impossible to find an agent. I even went to conference after conference to connect with agents on a personal level. And I specifically went to thriller conferences so I could meet agents who were interested in adventure. And I met like 3 adventure agents, and not one of them was interested in an adventure story with a female lead character. So at that point, I was really disheartened, and I kind of given up on finding an agent, and I was just focused on working on the book. And actually, Publishizer found me through Twitter, and my NaNoWriMo hashtag, because I was writing that month, and they contacted me and said, hey, do you have a book? Because we're looking for authors to join our platform. And back then, I don't know if it's changed since, but back then it was, right, the more books you sold, the more publishers you got connected to. So it's like what's a crowdfunding campaign platform? Kickstarter. It's like a Kickstarter and a Tinder for authors and publishers kind of thing. So it was interesting, and so I had to sell 100 books in order to get to at least the small publishers, and so that was my goal, and I made that goal, and got connected to, I think there were about 10 different publishers who connected with me at that point and said, we'd love to publish your book. And Creativity was the only one that impressed me, because they don't just take anyone. And I think for me, I needed someone to tell me my book was worthy enough to publish. Like, I didn't want to just self-publish, which I know there's some really great books out there self-published. So it was good for me to submit it to Creativia and them to come back and say, okay, your book is good, we'll take it, and we'll help you publish. So that's why I went that route.
One more very short question.
It's not necessarily a question, it's more of an acknowledgement. What I'm hearing you say is 4 years ago you wrote this, and now you're finally getting to the place where you're publishing. I just want to acknowledge you for hanging in there, because I think so many times as entrepreneurs, we think, oh, well, if it doesn't happen overnight, it's not going to happen. So congratulations.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
And of course, we actually have 2 last questions. The first is red or green.
So I like green, but I feel like I need to try Christmas at some point.
It is Christmas time, so it's appropriate. I love it. And of course, what can we as a community do for you?
Okay. So as a community, I don't know everybody, obviously, but if you know anyone else in this city who makes really cool products that writers would love, handmade notebooks or something like that, I'd love to add those to my store and sell those products. So that's my ask.
So approximate like price point that you're looking for each item. Is there something that you're kind of gauging that as?
Well, if it's something I can include in the box, it has to be fairly inexpensive. So we could talk about prices later, but if it's something, like this is a $30, right? This is a $30 handmade pen. That's not going to be able to go in the subscription box, but it's something I'd happy to sell on my website. So it all depends.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sonia. Awesome. Everybody give her one last hand clap. Thank you so much.